How you doing?
Good. How are you, Chef? The picture
Good.
disappeared.
I see you.
Nope,
Hey, Mark, how are you?
we're back.
Your audio's off, Mark. Bottom left corner, there's the microphone.
Thanks, Michael.
There you go. All right. How we doing?
Excellent.
Good.
Good. Good, good, good. So, let's see. I hate this light behind me. It's like glaring, but when I stand like this, I look very angelic. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Happy Taco Tuesday, everyone.
All right.
So let's take a look here. So today we're making steak fajitas, and what you should have in your meal kit is a beautiful piece of 8-ounce skirt steak, some bell peppers, cilantro, green onion, flour tortillas, onion, our taco seasoning, and some cooking oil. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get all our cutting done. So we wanna cut our peppers, onions. We'll cut our steak last because that'll be the biggest mess, and then we'll go ahead and get rid of the board and we'll start cooking. But I wanna show you how to cut a skirt steak so that it's super tender when we actually go ahead and use it. And when it comes time to eat it, there's a little trick to it that most people don't know about because of the way the grains run on the skirt steak. So first thing we wanna do is we're gonna julienne our onion and cut up our peppers. Now, there is no right or wrong answer to the thickness of how you're cutting them because it's just a function of what you enjoy to eat. Like I like slightly thicker peppers, so you could take your knife and pop that seed portion out, or you can just use your hand, come underneath and pop it out, whichever you prefer. And then when you cut your pepper, don't cut it like this because what you're doing is you're on a slipperier slope. And if you have a more dull knife, it's going to slide, causing you a chance to nick yourself in the finger. So you flip it over and you start on the softer side and you come through. See? And then the next step will be to julienne our onion. Again, as thick or thin as you like. My onions, I like them a little thinner because I like them to shrivel up a lot in the pan. But they're not like super, super thin. They have a good thickness to them. And then the green onion, also called the scallion, we're just gonna knock this end piece off where the root is. So you really only need one. If you like them a lot, you could do 2 or 3. I'm a big scallion lover. I grew up eating them raw. I had this uncle that would just take them and eat them completely raw, and he got me hooked on them. So, all right. You guys are so focused. I love it.
Woo!
Taco Tuesday. I hope you guys have some cervezas with you.
Yeah.
I gotta grab one.
Oh. All right. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about skirt steak. So some friends of mine own my favorite Mexican restaurant probably in the world. It's over in Rosemont, Maria's. And their chef there taught me a little trick to cutting skirt steak that I never would have thought of. So on a skirt steak, the connective tissues run this way, the muscle fibers, right? So that means that if I were to just slice it like this, I have long strings of meat. So that means that no matter what, no matter how tender the skirt steak is, it's going to have some natural chew because of these muscle fibers. So one day I'm watching him and he's cooking and he takes the skirt steak and he cuts it in half first. And I'm like, what are you doing? Well, then he takes it and turns it sideways and starts cutting it this way. And I was like, oh my goodness, because now you're cutting all this muscle fiber that's long and stringy. You just cut it so that you have small chewable pieces. And all of a sudden now it's a tender skirt steak. Even if it's a tough skirt steak, it's going to eat a lot more tender than just a typical skirt steak would. So that's a great little trick for slicing skirt steak. Even after it's cooked, you could still apply the same method. If you did a whole skirt steak, cut it in half, turn it, and slice it this way, it's going to eat a lot different. So each of your skirt steaks are 8 ounces, so about a half a pound. But skirt steak, because it's got so much natural fat to it, it shrinks quite a bit when we cook it. So you want to make sure that your skirt, you know, you have enough. And normally 8 ounces is kind of my magic number when it comes to doing fajitas and tacos. Even though an 8-ounce steak might be massive, an 8-ounce skirt steak is going to shrink quite a bit.
So Michael, you're just cutting those across the grain lengthwise?
Yeah, so you cut the skirt steak in half, turn it sideways, and cut lengthwise. You'll see it actually slices pretty easy that way too, because there's less, there's a little more resistance to help your knife kind of move through it.
Right, right.
Cool.
All right, so then we're going to take our beef and just season it with our taco seasoning. You're not going to use all this. You use as much or little as you want. Remember, some of this residual seasoning, after we start cooking the steak, is going to leach into the pan, which means that the peppers and onions are going to get it too. So we don't want to be super cheap, but you can always add more. You can always add more during the cooking process. But this little process is going to help season the beef really well, give off all those juices, and all those juices are going to be absorbed by the peppers.
Mm-hmm.
What's in the seasoning?
Cumin, garlic, oregano, some chili flake, pepper, salt, onion powder, ancho chili powder.
A Union League proprietary blend?
Chef Joel came up with it, and he's got a fantastic palate. So
Cool.
I'm always happy with the stuff he puts together. Don't get me wrong, I'll happily take full credit, but I gotta give credit where credit's due. John, how'd your apple tart come out the other day?
Oh, it came out great. It's gone.
That's awesome. All right, so I got my steak seasoned. I got my pan. I'm going to start heating it over a medium-high heat. The more heat, the better with this. So you want to give your pan ample time to heat up. And just like with anything with our pans, we're heating it dry first. Because that, again, is going to allow the metal to expand and give us a little bit better caramelization once we add the oil and then add the meat. So for oil, we don't want to over drown this meat in the oil. We want just a little bit to coat the bottom of the pan, as you can see. And then once I know that this is ripping hot, and I'm doing this on a portable burner, so it's not going to be as strong as my normal stove. I'm going to start to add the beef. When you add your steak, you could throw it all in, but if you want to get some really good caramelization and a better steak flavor, try and space it out a little in the pan for the initial sear. That's going to allow all this steam and vapor to escape and the natural sugars in the blood to caramelize. If we just throw a pile of beef in, all this steam is going to start to steam the beef, and we'll never have a really good color on it.
Not a lot of oil, I said. Did you hear this, or do you want me to repeat it? Just a little bit of oil, not too much.
You can always add more oil, but you don't start with too much.
You can always add more oil. That's perfect.
And I love this smell when this steak is cooking like this.
This is where fajitas usually look like.
Be a little closer to the pan. So now you could see, because I gave my pan enough time to heat up and I don't have too much oil, my steak is getting an awesome color. But I also like my steak to not be totally well done. So what I'm gonna do is take this beautifully browned meat, move it over to the side,
I can go get you one.
and I'm gonna take advantage of all this flavor in the pan and all this cooking surface. And I'm gonna add the peppers and onions right there. And I'm keeping my meat off to the side for a second because I want the peppers and onions to be at the maximum heat point of the pan so that they can get a little bit of color and soften nicely. But the steak is getting all this beautiful vegetable flavor and the vegetables are getting all this great steak flavor. I'm picking up some of that seasoning mix too. And last thing I'm going to throw in is green onion. I want this to start softening up because this is our garnish, but also a great additional flavor in the dish. So just press it down. It'll start to limp up a little bit, and then it'll fit in this pan nicely. Have any of you guys ever been to Maria's Mexican restaurant?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh my God, that's literally the best fajitas. It's phenomenal. Best margaritas too. So as this cooks, you can see all that stuff that's at the bottom of the pan is slowly starting to free up. That's a good thing. That's all flavor that we want to get into these vegetables.
So when it sticks on the bottom, you want it. You want to look and see what? Oh, I'm sorry. I cut up the green onions. You had the whole green onion in
You
there.
can cut it up. It's okay. The green onion can be cut up. It's a delicious accompaniment, so it's good to be in there. Now at this point, you can see my peppers have gotten color. They've softened nicely, but they still have a nice firm texture to them. My onions are nice and sweated and have that beautiful brown color as well. This is the fajita mix. So I'm going to set this aside for a minute and we'll go into the next part. Now, as it sits in the pan, everything's going to continue to cook because the pan is hot, and that's okay. But what I want to do is take my steak and put it on top of my peppers so my peppers can continue to soften, because I'd rather have soft peppers than overcooked steak. And I'll just set this aside. And the next thing I'm going to focus on is heating the tortillas. So these are flour tortillas. You can use corn, you can use almond tortillas, cashew ones, cassava flour, whatever you prefer. There's a lot of great options that are also gluten-free for flour or for tortillas. I like the flour ones. I think that they're great. We serve a lot of flour ones here. Now, depending on what you're looking for out of your tortillas, you can either add a touch of oil to the pan or do it completely dry. If you add a touch of oil, go very little, because your tortillas are going to absorb all this oil in there. So you put it in and just give a little swirl around with like a towel or a napkin or a paper towel or anything, but it's not necessary. And then we're going to put our tortillas on and let them start to sizzle a little, just to warm them through. Now, what I'm looking for these is just a little bit of color on this side and to get nice and soft. If I leave them in too long, they're gonna get really hard, almost like a tortilla chip, like a stale one. So you're just looking to toast that flour a little bit and get them a little bit warm. Perfect. And then if you're doing a lot of tortillas, you could take these, put them to the side in a napkin. They'll stay nice and moist and soft. If you just leave them out on a plate uncovered, they're going to get really hard as well in that stale kind of feeling and taste.
Chef, you pulled the meat and the peppers off it. They're not on heat anywhere?
They're not on heat right now. They're going to stay hot because they're in a hot pan,
Okay,
but they're not cooking on the stove anymore.
got it. Cool.
So now I like steak fajitas. I love shrimp fajitas, probably my favorite. It'd be the exact same method, whether it's shrimp fajitas, chicken fajitas, any kind you want to do. But this is the basic principle and cooking method of the fajitas. So to go ahead and serve this, we're going to take this beautiful fajita mix and put it on this side. Now, do you guys know what fajitas means?
No.
No.
Faja in Spanish means skirt, and fajitas mean little skirts, which is kind of interesting. So the little strips of steak look like little skirts, so that's how they get the name fajitas, little skirts.
Cool.
Put the green onion right on top. I like to garnish with a little fresh cilantro because as heavy as skirt steak could be, I think this little fresh pop of herb really brighten it up nicely. And then you take your tortillas and you have them on the side ready to actually make your own tacos using the fajita meat and these beautiful tortillas. And there you have it. The peppers are nice and firm. The steak's cooked beautifully. You got some nice warm tortillas. You want to serve it with some avocado, sour cream, whatever you're in the mood for, goes great with it. But that's how you make steak fajitas. That's how I make steak fajitas, I should say.
Looks good.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, any questions?
Nope.
What do you guys drink? What are you guys drinking with your fajitas?
And
I have any,
I gotta go grab one.
Well, you got a stout there, Mark?
It's a black lager.
Oh, beautiful. Awesome. Well, enjoy, guys. Happy Taco Tuesday. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. We're doing breakfast for dinner tomorrow, making homemade pancakes from scratch, if anyone's interested.
All right. Thanks,
Very
Michael.
good. Thanks, Chef.
Take care.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
You too.